I'm gonna try something today, kind of like a virtual reality or a hunting simulation. Now that it's springtime, I'm gonna be going up to do some scouting, and I thought, well, while I'm doing it, I can take you play by play of how I got my buck during the last day of muzzleloader season. That was one of the hunts that I thought, man, I sure wish I had a video camera. It was really cool, and I thought it was like epitomized the type of hunting that I like to do. I love to have some snow, and I love to follow some tracks and track them down. And I stayed on a set of tracks that seemed like a nice buck until he went over onto some private property. And I let him go ahead and continue that way, and I went a different direction, and that's when I ended up running into the buck that I got during muzzleloader season. He was in a pretty sketchy area and on the state land, and I was going up a really steep bank, like the edge of a gully, and right on the point where it came down in is where he was coming across and checking some doe beds. So I thought if I was going to go out doing some turkey scouting and some other just getting into the woods, maybe I'd give this a shot and see if you guys enjoy it. I'm getting ready to start up the hill. The hunt started on some private land that I have permission to hunt, and I worked my way up into the public land. And while I was going up through, I came across some tracks, and that's when I started tracking them. So I'm gonna walk our way up through the woods. There's a pretty good hill here. I asked my kids if they wanted to come with me. They said, not if you're going up there. So it's just me. I was gonna bring the dogs, but I thought I didn't want to get them running around up here too much if there were some turkeys hanging around. And anyway, so it's just me and bringing you guys along. So let's head up this hill, and I'll let you know when we get to a spot where what was going on at that location. This is the first location that I hiked up to. It's about 600-800 yards off of the main road uphill. And this spot I usually come to, there's a set of pines below. Then there's like let me go the other way. There's like these thorny apples right here, and I've trimmed up a bunch of the dead branches off of them, hoping they'll grow a little bit better this year. And if you look over here, there is a scrape, right? I gotta move my arm in the right way, right there. And the trail comes right down through here, across this log road. And there was a really heavy scrape right there. And I have a blind through this thicket here, right in there. There's a downed tree top and a bunch of branches that are piled up here. I'll take you down over that way. Anyways, this trail goes right down through here, like 10 yards from my blind, and they work their way all through these pine trees. But I came up here because of that scrape, just to see if anything was still using it that late in season. This is the blind here, and we've shot a few out of it. We've seen a few nice ones out of it. One of my buddies hunts up here too, once in a while. A lot of guys don't want to hike this hill, which is fine. I don't mind it. It gives me some good exercise. So I came up here to check, and as I came across the top, there was no real sign in the scrapes. When I came across the top side, above the blind, which is right over there, when I got over to this edge, I saw a big set of tracks that had come the same way that I had. He came from down below and is working his way up this, right along the edge of this gully over here. And I saw where his tracks came up, and then he ran right down through this road. So I got on the tracks and started following him, and we're gonna take that trip right now. After we crossed the gully and a little stream, started headed back up the other hill on the other side, that buck decided that he would take a left and head onto private land. So I was already over here, and I decided, since I hadn't hunted this side of the gully, the state land over here yet this year, I'd like to take a look. I had all day to hunt, and I thought, I've seen some pretty good bucks over on this side, and I had 2 tags to fill. And even though it was going to be terrible drag out, I thought there's a good possibility that I might be able to fill a tag or 2, and what I have to lose. So I decided I'd head up this. The problem is, it's like the steepest hill that's up in this area, and it was going to be a workout, but I usually, well, try to go out with a bang, and it doesn't matter how much exercise it's going to take or how worn out I'll be. I figure I gotta leave it all in the woods. So up the hill I went. Let's go check this out. So after all that walking, I finally got to the public land, state land, New York State Forest. I know I usually see deer up in this area, or at least a lot of sign, so I started working my way up the hill just to check to see if I could come across a set of tracks. The last couple of days had stormed pretty hard, and it was really windy. And a lot of times I'll hunt up on towards the field up at the top of the private property, but I wasn't seeing anything up there. Every time I came down into the gully area, that's where I was seeing all the sign. There's a lot of oaks all over each side of this gully, and mostly red oaks, some white, but most of the activity was down low where they were out of the wind and out of the weather. So I thought I'll just walk the edge of this gully just to see, and once I get over into an area where I'd been seeing a lot of sign during archery season and gun season, I figured I'd cross the gully and see if I could run into something. We had a really foggy day during gun season, and I had a big bodied deer cross in front of me just inside the fog, and I couldn't get a clear shot, and I couldn't see exactly what it was. I had a tag for buck or doe, but I thought maybe my eyes were playing a trick on me, and maybe it wasn't as big of a deer as I thought it was. Once I got up there to the tracks, it was a big deer, big set of tracks anyways, and but there's no sense in taking a dangerous shot. So from here, I head up the gully, and let's take a look at what that looks like. Hopefully you're enjoying the hike. Did you guys see all that sign? I don't know if you could notice with hyperlapse. All the leaves were kicked all up. It was all from deer. It's a bunch of oak trees over that way. You see that old deer stand? It's looking kind of dangerous. Check this out. A licking branch and a scrape. Right on the edge of this gully. I don't know if you can tell how fast it drops right down over there. But this whole side here just drops right down off. When I got to this area, I was on about 3 or 4 sets of tracks, and the wind had swirled, and you can see where I was just trailing them. They were slow, and then they took right off, and I thought maybe I could catch up to them, so I headed this way, and I got some pictures of where they went. I cut across this little gully, or I got to it, and they took off and they jumped. It has to, I don't know, has to be about 10 feet high, and probably, and if you see this, I don't know if you can see these leaves all kicked up like that. They're in here scraping around, trying to tell if there's any turkeys over this way. A lot of this looks like deer. I see deer tracks in the leaves and deer poop all over the place, and I can't really see where they scratched it right clean, and that it's definitely from turkeys. So I'm thinking this is mostly from deer. Anyway, when I came down through here, those deer took off and jumped over this little gorge. I don't know, I think it's probably about 14, 15 feet across maybe, and it is high. And I said, forget it. Those deer, they're pretty bad. Ooh. And they're pretty tough to be able to jump across that. They have the right to stay alive. I'm gonna leave them alone. And I decided I'd work my way up through and up a bank farther up. I'm just about to where they had jumped across, I think. See if we can get a little bit of view from without snow, and then I've got pictures from when it happened. I didn't take a pictures of a lot of things that day, but I did take a picture of that because I was pretty impressed. Well, this is the spot they had jumped across, and it doesn't look that impressive in camera, but man, that is pretty deep down there. I'd say it's at least, I don't know, about 6 feet deep, and maybe 12 feet across. I might have been exaggerating a little bit, but I was impressed, and I thought they get to keep going. They went straight up that hill, which I don't know how you get to see how steep stuff is in a camera. That's steep. It's beautiful and steep. So what I did is I went down that way, and I think I went up that way. Yeah. No, I went down that way, up over, and then down and up over again. We'll see if we can locate the location. Is that right? See if we can discover the location. I don't think you can use the same word twice in a row. I did. Let's locate that location. When I get to the bottom of that hill, into the bottom of this little part of the gully, I decided I'd climb up this other side here. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm standing on the bottom, and my hand is almost touching that bank. It's like, I don't know what that is. Well, I don't know, maybe a 60 degree? It's up there. I mean, so the wind was blowing straight up the gully. I figured on this point, there might be something because they've been hanging out down low. And I couldn't see up in there when I got down the bottom from where I was. And to be honest with you, I thought I was in a different spot of the gully. And my GPS that I was using told me I was in one spot, but I thought maybe it didn't know because I don't always have coverage out here. And sometimes it'll, on like a running app or things like that, it'll like show that you went straight through a cornfield when you didn't. So I didn't know if I trusted it. I thought, I know where I am. So I started making my way up this hill thinking I was going up in a different spot, which got me in trouble later on. But I will show you what it looked like as I went up. I kind of went from tree to tree because it was so slippery and so much snow. I slipped down the bank a couple times, or like just apart, and caught myself. And I don't know, maybe I'll recreate that too. Let's see. Let's switch this camera around. So I worked my way up this bank over here, and I was getting kind of sneaking up through. And when I got about in this location, I slipped down and caught myself, almost went down the hill. And so I decided I'd go tree to tree. So I'd grab onto a tree, work my way up, put my foot up above it, and I worked up to the next tree. And I was working up this spot here, and I slipped again, and I caught myself, and I grabbed onto this one, got above it. I was slowly working up through here. And I was coming up through, and I was going real slow and quiet, thinking I was bound to see something on this point. And I got probably right in this area. I don't know, maybe I was over here a little bit because it was more open. And right here, there's a good sized oak tree about 45, 50 yards in front of my finger right there. I saw a body working its way across. I dropped down here like so. I pulled my muzzleloader up to my shoulder. We'll pretend this is it. Put my eye in the scope, and I just stood up like so. And as soon as it got into the scope, boom, shot him. He dropped right there by that tree. So I worked my way up through. As you see, I'll take you around this knob, this point. But you see there's a rub right there. They're all over the place. So I worked my way up through here. And he was right there, right at the bottom of that tree. And he was still trying to get up, kind of dragging himself a little bit. More just had his head up. And so I hurried up, grabbed the muzzleloader, reloaded it right here, and I came up maybe to this tree here. Yeah, this tree here, and I leaned against it and took more shot. And he just right over right there. And that was it. And that was an awesome hunt. And if you look here, when I came up the hill, because I wasn't sure if this was the spot, check this out. I don't know if any of you muzzleloader hunters use this, but I don't know if I'm in there. This is what I use on a really snowy, nasty day. I saw it on a hunting video once. I can't remember who it was, but they said put that over your muzzle to keep the snow from getting down in and getting your powder wet. So that was in my muzzleloader pack, and I remember pulling it out and taping back over the muzzle after I had gotten that buck. After I had field dressed him, I cleaned my muzzleloader, brushed it out and patched it with a cleaning patch and then a dry patch, and reloaded and put the tape over it. And there is the tape. I just found it. So I'm going to pack this back out of the woods with me. And right here is where he was laying in the picture that I have, that I put in this video. Let's take a walk around here and we'll see some of the deer sign. I see rubs all over this point. I'm gonna make it a good spot to hunt this year during archery season, and hopefully be able to. I don't think he was the only buck hanging in this area, but this is what they tend to do. They will work their way around onto points where does are hanging out. So let's check out this rub line. We got one here. Work down through. That one here, that's an older one that they reused this year a little bit. And they work their way down through here. You can see there's an old one on that tree over there. A little bit here. That one. This one. Older on this side. Fresh on that side. And up through right along this edge. There's an old one there. And if you look through here, and this is a lot of beech here, so there's some beech nuts on the ground. I mean, here's tons of sign. Here's some acorns still. Big oak tree by where he had walked through. There's another one over on the other side of that. And that one, there's another one right there. Lots of oaks. A little bit of everything else. There's a couple other rubs up through here. Oh. And this was doe beds all through here. Another rub there. There's another one over that way. Another one there. So they were definitely focused in this area. And I'm going to be focused in that. Maybe even get myself with my saddle right up in that, up above that crotch there, where I can work my way around that tree and shoot down through there all the way around. I think that's going to be a spot to get. Maybe we'll get a video from that tree, me sticking a big buck. So after all the excitement, I hooked onto that deer and there was tons of snow, and instead of dropping right back down where I had come from and working my way down through that way, like I said, I thought the GPS was lying and I was right. So I took myself up over this hill here and stayed along the edge of the gully because I thought I was in a different spot. Well, I found out later that I was on one of the third or fourth draws up the gully, and in my mind I had come across the main gully and up on the other side onto the private land again. But there's a extra couple points that drop down into the gully above where that spot that I thought I was. So I worked my way uphill the wrong way up the gully. And when I finally figured it out, I was kicking myself. My GPS was right and I was wrong. was on the top of that hill up there, and I looked down here at this spot, and this is where I realized I wasn't where I thought I was. And that the GPS was right, and I was dragging the buck the wrong way up the gully instead of going down. And I felt really stupid because I don't usually get turned around that easily, but I haven't hunted this spot in years on this side of the gully, and I don't know, it happened, and that happens to people sometimes. So this is when I drug the buck down off the bank and started headed downstream, and it was quite the workout. Up and over trees, under trees, through the stream, pulled out of the stream, in the snow, out of the snow. Let's take that trip. I'm back in the bottom of the gully where that first buck crossed the stream and headed up onto posted property. I talked to the gentleman that owns it and asked him if it was all right for me to come through his backyard so I didn't have to go way up over the hill to get to my vehicle. My dad came down and gave me a hand, like he seems to. I get him into these predicaments where I go way deep somewhere, or I invite him to do it, and he says, "Man, you always get me into this stuff." But I think I'm helping him live a fuller, invigorating life and giving him some exercise. Well, maybe not. I think I probably give him sore muscles and a headache. But I just want to thank you, Dad, for giving me a hand. I was pretty beat. I should have probably drugged that buck out right after I shot him, and thank God for a good season and been done. But I didn't. So he came up and helped me. We drug him out. I think we were probably a quarter mile in that he helped me drag him, and we got him out of here. Hopefully you enjoyed that virtual hunt, or whatever you want to call it. It was pretty neat to relive it, and I saw some good trails and some good areas to possibly try to hunt next year. I hope everybody's staying positive during this pandemic and the quarantine that we're in. I know it's easy to get down and negative, and being isolated is never a good thing. Hopefully you're staying in contact with people. Give somebody a call instead of sending them a text. Hear their voice. And if you can, if you're in your little bubble of the family members that are around you in your home, spend some extra time with them. Get out a board game. Get out some cards. Just sit around the table and enjoy the time with them. It'll be something that you'll talk about for years, how good it was to be with each other. I'm praying for everybody. I pray that you're doing well, you're staying safe. And I just, I hope that these videos are at least amusing you, or maybe getting you ready to go hit the woods yourself. The woods are never too far away. There's always some piece of state land you can get to, or a park or something. You can get out in the woods and enjoy God's beautiful creation. Thanks again for watching. I just want to thank everybody from the bottom of our hearts for the positive feedback we've gotten. At the end of this video, go ahead and scroll down all the way to the bottom where it says comments. We'd love to see them. We've only gotten 3 or 4 actual comments in the YouTube video area itself. We've seen them on Facebook, but go ahead and post them on here. If you could share this with some friends, we're just trying to get a bunch of people to watch. We'll take any kind of criticism, positive or negative, hopefully positive. Let me know what I can do to change things and to make it more exciting or interesting. Like I said, I'm still learning. Every day I'm learning something new, and hopefully I get to put it all together further down the road, and you'll be really liking what you see. Everybody take care of themselves. Take care of your loved ones. If you need anything, give us a holler if you know us personally. And I just want to tell you, God bless you. We love you, and have a great night.